Good evening, everyone. My name's Vicky Jelly and I'm the Mayor of Warrnambool City Council, and I'll be chairing tonight's council meeting. I'd formally like to welcome everyone watching this meeting this evening. Due to the current statewide lockdown restrictions, the council meeting will be conducted virtually whilst being live streamed to allow public viewing and transparency. If any technical problems interrupt the live stream during this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned until the issues are rectified. This scheduled council meeting will be conducted in accordance with the council's governance rules, and any interruptions to the meeting or actions not in line with behaviour expectations will be dealt with in accordance to these rules. With an added extra, because of we're doing this by Zoom, as there are requirements for conducting a virtual council meeting. A member's attendance can only be recorded as present where the member can confirm that they meet all three of the following: that they can hear proceedings, that they can see other members in attendance and can be seen by other members, and that they can be heard to speak. I'll now go to each councillor and verify that you can understand all those three things. Councillor Ziegler, are you able to hear everything, see everyone, and we can hear you?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Koish, are you able to verify the three requirements? You need to take your off mute.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blaine, are you able to verify the three requirements?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, are you able to verify the three requirements for tonight?
I can, thank you, Madam Mayor. All good.
Thank you. And Councillor Arnott, can you please verify you can hear everything and see?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Very good. Okay. We now have the opening prayer and acknowledgement. We'll now proceed to the items, which is the prayer and the acknowledgement of the traditional owners. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of the city. Amen. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Okay. Item 2. Are there any apologies for this meeting? Yes, Councillor Blaine.
Councillor Paspaliaris, if we can mark it in as an apology, please, me.
Thank you. Yes, that's right. Councillor Paspaliaris is on leave. So do I have a mover that the council accept the apology of Councillor Paspaliaris? Councillor Blaine, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. All those in favour, raise your hand. Okay, agreed, and the motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 3, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, at item 3 on the agenda, we have a recommendation before us that the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of August 2021 be moved. Councillors, are there any questions in relation to this item before I seek a motion? No questions? Okay, do I have a mover?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Councillor Ziegler. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. All those in favour, raise your hand. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, conflicts of interest. If a councillor has a conflict of interest, they must declare now and do so just prior to the item being discussed. A councillor who has declared a conflict of interest must leave the meeting and remain. Of course, we will take you out of the meeting, the virtual meeting, while the matter is being considered or any vote is taken. Once the matter is resolved, the councillor can return to the meeting. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest tonight? Okay, there are none, so thank you. Okay, item number 5 on the agenda, the mayoral presentation. I'd just like to recognise that COVID-19 and lockdowns have affected us all in some way or another, but I congratulate the resilience of many groups and entities throughout the city who have had to cancel their events or rethink and act differently about how those events have been held. The recent announcement of the Warrnambool Prize 2021 was held as an online event and was very successful. Southwest artist Georgina Sample took out the first prize for her piece titled Lex Patent. Another celebrated local event was the Father of the Year announcement last week, which rather than cancel was held online. Anthony Dixon won the Warrnambool Rotary Club of Warrnambool's annual event, nominated by his son Jerry. So that was great, those two things could continue on. And just another thing, it's been fabulous to hear over the past few weeks that our city is being recognised as one of the lead in the state with the amount of COVID immunisations for any regional city in the state. I congratulate the team at Southwest Healthcare and along with our own Warrnambool City Council staff who have together ensured that the immunisation centre has been well managed and for such an important program and ensure as many people have been vaccinated as they have. Also great recognition for our local GPs and pharmacies that are also being involved. So let's keep up the good work and get our city vaccinated. Okay, item number 6 on the agenda is public question time. CEO, are there any public questions tonight?
Yes, Mayor, we have 5 questions this evening. The first question is from Cassandra Brigg, and the question is, can Council confirm that it previously had a cyclist advisory committee, if it intends to reinstate this advisory committee, and if not, why not? And furthermore, can Council advise bike riders who live in or visit Warrnambool of the best way to keep WCC informed of their needs as vulnerable road users in the absence of this advisory committee? The response to that is that Warrnambool City Council currently manages a cycling reference group which meets periodically and has the minutes presented to Council. The last time the minutes were presented was at the May meeting of the Council. This group contains interested members of the community, some from local groups, Council staff, and a councillor representative being Councillor Paspaliaris. Anyone wishing to provide feedback or make a proposal to the committee can do so as a customer request specifically referred to the cycling reference group, or contact Council and provide an email address and the staff can direct contact. Second question is from Jim Burke, and his question is, on the 5th of July 2021, I asked if an illuminated sign erected on the Swinton wing of Lindock Living had a permit at the time of its installation, or if it had since received a permit. The short answer was that it was not initially permitted and it had not since received a permit. I asked this evening, A, has this sign since been provided with a permit, and if not, why not? And B, more broadly, which party is responsible for ensuring a permit is gained in these circumstances? The contractor installer or the party commissioning the sign? The response, Mayor, is that no permit has been issued for the sign. An application for such a sign must demonstrate its ability to meet the requirements of the Warrnambool planning scheme. In that regard, we're awaiting information to demonstrate its ability to meet the planning scheme requirements. The landowner is responsible for its own land and adherence to the Warrnambool planning scheme. However, other parties are able to apply for a planning permit with the landowner's knowledge or consent. Next question is also from Mr. Burke. Recent media reportedly indicates that the cost of replacing the Stanley Street Bridge has increased by more than 50% on the original estimate of $3 million. This is a massive increase and must give the Council pause for thought. My question tonight is, does the Council intend to seek a new cost-benefit analysis before making a final decision on this project? And can this project proceed without additional state or federal funding? The response, Mayor, is that the figure reported in the local media includes a number of provisional items such as pre-drilling of piles and reduce impact on adjacent residents and provision for service relocation and fixing of some utility services to the new bridge. The sum also includes approximately $350,000 of contingencies, which may or may not be spent. In order to get this project to this point, the council engineering staff have undertaken a number of tests to ascertain whether or not there is any useful life left in the structure, and has been determined that the bridge is well past its useful life and will be a significant maintenance burden on the council and is likely to require a strict weight restriction. The staff also investigated other similar projects to ensure that the pricing was accurate and have undertaken a thorough investigation process to support the recommendations as presented. These investigations, in the staff's estimate, avoid the need for a further cost-benefit exercise. And if required, the project can be funded internally out of next year's allocation of bridge renewal funding, given this is a multi-year project. Next question is from Anne McRae. The question is, major commercial and housing developments now underway along Hopkins Road and Hopkins Point Road have led to Hopkins Road becoming a very busy thoroughfare, which will only become busier and more dangerous for drivers, buses, pedestrians and cyclists once these projects are completed. My question is, what is the council plan to address this increase in traffic, in particular at the intersections of Otway Road, Hopkins Road and Marfell Road, Hopkins Road, and what is the timeline for any safety and traffic control measures to be in place? The response, Mayor, is that the intersections mentioned in the question have been highlighted in the structure plan for the Hopkins Point developments and are listed as developer contribution projects that will be planned and developed as part of the DCP. In addition to this, the intersection of Flaxman and Nicholson Streets will also receive some treatment to help it cope with increased traffic loads and make it safer. The timing of the works is dependent on the volume of development and has contributed to the fund, as it is hoped that some additional detailed design proposals can commence in 6 months. And the final question is from Corel Smith. As councillors are so focused on removing or changing the excellent pedestrian crossings in the CBD, why is there no focus on the bigger cause of congestion for cars, being the drive-through at McDonald's Central? Regularly, there are 5 to 10 minute delays caused back to the northern end of Liebig Street and the crossing Lava Street due to excessive queuing of cars. This is far more of an inconvenience and risk to persons than a legal pedestrian crossing. My questions are, why does council take no action to ensure the proprietor of McDonald's Central is required to ensure their business does not cause congestion to public streets or modify their drive-through design to prevent such traffic impacts? And what action has council taken in planning policies and scheme updates to ensure such poorly designed and permitted drive-through designs are never allowed to be built in Warrnambool again? The response, Mayor, is that the McDonald's drive-through and its anticipated impact on the intersection was worked through extensively at design phase for the Liebig Street redevelopment with McDonald's and Vic Roads at the time. The intersection is not a planning scheme matter and will be referred to Vic Roads at our next quarterly meeting with them. That's the questions, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, agenda. Councillors, we are now moving to the officers' report section of the agenda. I'd like to remind you of the speaking times allocated for each item during the meeting as outlined in our governance rules. The mover of the motion may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes to open the debate and then a further 2 minutes later on to exercise their right of reply and to close the debate. Any other councillor, including the seconder, may speak for or against a motion for no more than 3 minutes. There will be a signal if you reach the maximum time allowed. I'd ask you to respect these time limits, please. Okay, we move to the reports. Number 7 on the agenda, 7.1, financial statements, performance statement 2020 to 2021, agenda page number 5, Directorate Corporate Strategies. This report seeks the endorsement of council to approve in principle council's annual financial statements and annual performance statement. It further seeks to nominate 2 councillors to have the authority to sign the annual accounts and performance statement on behalf of council. Once final sign off has been received from the Victorian Auditor General's Office, VAGO. This authorisation will enable council to meet its statutory obligations for the lodgement of this annual statement as part of the annual report to the Minister by the 30th of September 2021. The annual report, which includes the financial and performance statements, will return to council for consideration at a future council meeting. Are there any questions, councillors? No, thank you. So, councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
I'd like to move that the financial statements be accepted per the council officer's recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd endorse the appointment of Councillor Blaine and Councillor Paspalaris to be authorised to certify the 2021 financial statements. And also I'd like to comment on the council's performance of the 4 garbage bins. I consider the 4 garbage bins are working extremely well in the city, and a Warrnambool resident reminded me to it is very simple to remember which bins to put out, in as much as one alternate weeks. One week is the Port Fairy Football Club, purple and gold, and the second week is Happy Christmas, the red and green. So if the residents of Warrnambool remember those 2 themes, there shouldn't be any problems in the city as to remember which garbage bins to put out. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I don't. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Blaine?
What a different year. Thanks, Mayor Jelly. What a different year this has been for council operating under the numerous lockdowns of the pandemic. While I'm happy to support the in-principle, to give in-principle support to the financial statements and the annual performance statement, I do find it interesting to see how well council has actually performed financially during the pandemic. According to the annual report, council achieved an accounting surplus of $12.53 million with an actual underlying surplus of $2.4 million. The working capital ratio, which assesses council's ability to meet current commitments, is calculated by measuring council's current assets as a percentage of the current liabilities, gave a result of 159.5%, an indicator of satisfactory financial position within the expected target band of 100 to 200%. Council's debt ratio, which is measured by comparing interest-bearing loans and borrowings to rate revenue, was 19.5%, which is just below the expected target band of between 20 and 60% outlined in the debt policy. According to the report, council has even managed to repay $1.53 million in debt. I understand we'll be drawing on loans for some of the major projects like Reed and the library, but I do think that we are in a strong position. But I wouldn't call this result a mess. This result shows a strong revenue base for council, especially in these trying times. I think this shows as a council we have the revenue we need to be focusing. That we have the revenue that we need, and we need to be focusing on how we can make sure that we use ratepayers' money in the most effective way to deliver as much as possible for Warrnambool. We have had to suspend important services to the community because of the lockdowns, but I think these numbers show a positive result on council's bottom line. I was aware during the budget discussions that there was predicted to be a greater surplus than expected according to the budget forecast, and it looks like council's achieved this. This does make me wonder, when council showing such a strong result, why we couldn't offer a rates freeze for the Warrnambool community. I think when council suspends services because of the lockdowns, we could have been looking at different opportunities in which we could have offered relief to our community. But I'm happy to support the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blaine. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, just with regard to points 2, 3 and 4 of the recommendations, both points mention after any changes recommended by the review of the audit from the Auditor General. I'm wondering if there are any changes, and if there are there any ramifications from those changes?
Is that your statement or is that a question?
It's a question. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Is it Mr.
Mayor,
Schneider?
Mr.
Can you
Mr.
please?
Utri, Mr. Utri can respond to that.
Thank
Through
you.
you, Madam Mayor. At the moment, we have unqualified statements from the Victorian Auditor General. We've actually received them back already. The only outstanding matter is the completion of the library's end-of-year accounts, which need to be included in our end-of-year accounts. So we're not likely to see any detrimental findings on the accounts this year.
So that's the only change you acknowledge at this point?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak at all on that? Okay, thank you. There be no further speakers. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Okay, thank you. So I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 7.2, budget rollovers carried forwards. Agenda page number 7, Directorate Corporate Strategies. This report highlights the proposed budget rollovers from 2020 to 2021 financial year to the 2021-22 financial year. Are there any questions, councillors, before I seek a motion? No? Okay. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Arnott, what is your motion?
I'd like to move the motion to accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion?
Yes.
Councillor Ziegler. Thank you. Yep. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Council has identified we have nearly $12.9 million of funds to be rolled over into the 21-22 financial year. A large proportion of these funds relate to state and federal grants for ongoing operating and capital projects. Some of the projects that have been funded over a number of years are such as the Lake Potobe upgrade, the Reed Oval development and the Joint Learning and Library Hub. The disruption of COVID-19 also seen a significant number of services not being able to be delivered to the members of the community, but also there was restrictions on people entering buildings and having gatherings and such. This funding service, therefore, needs to be rolled over into 2021 financials, and I'm happy to endorse the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, I'm quite happy to endorse the comments made by Debbie.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? No? All good. Okay. There being no further speakers, Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to close the debate? Thank you. We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 7.3 on the agenda, S6 Instrument of Delegation, Council to members of staff. Agenda page number 9, Department Governance, Property, Projects and Legal. The purpose of this report is to present the updated S6 Instrument of Delegation, Council to members of council staff to council for consideration. Are there any questions in regard to this, councillors, before we go ahead? Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That we accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Mayor Jelly. Just quickly on the instrument of delegation, this is an important document because this is how council actually distributes their powers to the officers in order to enforce many of the daily things that council does, the powers and duties and functions like local laws, parking infringements, planning, all these different things. It's an important instrument in having a council that runs effectively. Under the new Local Government Act that we've seen in 2020, there have been a few minor changes recommended by Maddox, which we've updated in this policy since the last time. So I am happy to endorse. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would, thanks, Councillor Jelly. Yes, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was agreeing to with this particular one, knowing that delegation is an important part of council operation. It's not something that that councillors can actually do to manage every aspect of council operations, and the delegation is a simple management technique whereby council officers maintain the day-to-day operations of council. I was happy with that explanation, and I understood from my inquiries while researching this that it's a standard procedure that happens pretty much regularly with each new year, each new council, that delegations are made, and that if we foresee problems, we are able to rescind the various delegations as necessary. So I'm quite comfortable in supporting the motion.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak? No, thank you. So there being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, would you like to close?
Yeah, just quickly, the reason that council actually has the instrument of delegation is because the powers of the Local Government Act to enforce these laws actually fall to council, and in order to have an efficient organisation that functions well, that's why council and all 79 councils in Victoria have it. That's why they delegate these powers to the staff in order to have an efficient functioning council. So yes, thank you. Happy to support.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 7.4 on the agenda, S18, Instrument of Subdelegation, EPA, Council to Staff. Agenda page 11, Department Governance, Property, Projects and Legal. The purpose of this report is to present the new S18 Instrument of Subdelegation relating to the Environmental Protection Act 2017 to Council for approval. Are there any questions, councillors? Thank you. So, councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. I'd like to move a motion that the EPA changes be accepted as per the councillor's officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Blaine. Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to the motion now?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Yes, I commend the new changes from the EPA powers to the staff and powers of local government relating to the use of wastewater and the noise from construction, demolition and removal of residential premises. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Mayor Jelly. Yeah, this is as Councillor Taylor has mentioned, this is just another delegation for council, which is something that's we've only just been given responsibility because when the Environmental Protection Act 2017 was enacted, the regulations have been put out so that council is has now got additional responsibilities under the Act, and I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? No? Thank you. So there being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak and close the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Okay, thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.5, sale and acquisition of land policy. Agenda page number 13, Department, Governance, Property, Projects and Legal. The purpose of this report is to present the sale and acquisition of land policy to council for consideration. Are there any questions before I seek a motion? No, thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Arnott, what is your motion?
I'd like to move the motion to accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler. Thank you. Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Jelly. This is a very important policy. It's a new policy for council, and it's designed around supporting decision-making around the strategic purchase and sale of council land. It provides guidance and parameters to ensure that any purchase or sale of land is done in a considered and responsible way. It gives us really good guidelines as to what and how things should be done, our purpose for doing these things, and it just will help provide greater consistency and value to council's strategic land sales and acquisition. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak?
No, thanks, Mayor Jelly.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Blaine?
I think this, as Councillor Arnott said, I do think this is an important policy for guiding how council acquire and dispose of land. I think it's something that's probably overdue, and the overarching principles to guide every purchase or sale of land by Warrnambool City Council and ensure it relates to council's strategic direction and better outcomes for the community. We are governed by the Local Government Act as well in relation to the land sale and acquisition. But one thing I don't agree on, which gets first consideration before we move through the policy, is land being sold for the ongoing viability, financial viability of council. According to the policy, it's one of the first principles to be considered. Getting rid of assets to square the ledger isn't right. It's important council does have land to deliver important services and infrastructure for the Warrnambool community. This policy, in my opinion, does show some strategic appetite for council to be accepting of a sugar hit for a sale of land. I don't think, in my opinion, it doesn't make sense for council to be made viable from it has to be made viable from management, not the sale of council assets. I think outcomes for Warrnambool are what we should always be looking at. I think this policy should be looking only at how we use land to deliver the best in strategic direction for Warrnambool, not for the financial sustainability of council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor like to speak? No? Thank you. So there being no further speakers, Councillor Arnott, would you like to close the debate?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Jelly. I understand where Councillor Blaine is coming from, but it's not suggested in there at all that the policy is only to make council viable. It's there to guide us on how to best have best consistency and value, and in how we and to be strategic in purchasing our land or making a sale of land. So on that note, Mayor, I have no problem with the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 and 1 against. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Blaine, 1 against. So the motion is carried. Thank you. Agenda item 7.6, proposed amendment to the Warrnambool Planning Scheme, King's College. Agenda page number 15, Directorate City Growth. This report provides information on a planning scheme amendment request received from Myers Planning Group on behalf of King's College to rezone land at 44 to 52 Balmoral Road and properties at 1 to 22 Royal Court, Warrnambool, to the General Residential Zone 1, and recommends that Council seek authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare an amendment to the Warrnambool Planning Scheme. Are there any questions in relation to this agenda item? No, thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That we accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Taylor, thank you. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, Mayor Jolly. This amendment's about bringing King's College in line with the other private schools in the city. Currently, public schools are zoned, as this one is currently, as a Zone 1 special use zone for education, while all the private schools in Warrnambool and a lot of the surrounding district are actually general residential Zone 1. This will bring King's College in line with the other private schools across Warrnambool. One thing that is mentioned there is Council's decision not to accept the development plan overlay that was presented with this application, as it would exempt consultation on future further development of the site after it's been rezoned. I think this is a really wise move from the officers, because I do think it's important to give the community the opportunity to have input on any potential future site developments around King's College. So I am happy to support this motion.
Thanks, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Jolly. Yes, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Blaine's comments to rezone the land to General Residential Zone 1, which is consistent with the zoning of other private non-government schools in Warrnambool. Thank you, Mayor Jolly.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on the motion? No? Oh, Councillor Ziegler. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to endorse Councillor Blaine's comments about agreeing with the rejection of the overlay proposed. I don't think that's necessary at all with this.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, do you wish to close? Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.7, amendment to development plan Oakwood Riverside, agenda page number 18, Directorate City Growth. This report considers the Oakwood Riverside addendum to the North Mayorai development plan prepared by Millwood Engineering and recommends that the addendum be endorsed. Are there any questions, councillors, before we go forward? Thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what's your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jolly. I'd like to move a motion that the amendment to the development plan at Oakwood Reserve be accepted as per the council officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Have I got a seconder for the motion? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Yes, the Wollaston Road area has gone ahead in leaps and bounds in the last decade with many projects, housing projects out Wollaston Road, but the actual Wollaston Road has remained the same for the last 30 years, and this road is having a lot more traffic along the road and needs to be updated to handle all the increased traffic. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion? No, thank you. Councillor Taylor, there being no speakers, would you like to close the debate? Thank you.
I'm sure the development plan will provide and ensure much better road management in the future. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you very much. So I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.8, Development Plan 15 Dales Road. Agenda page number 22, Directorate City Growth. This report considers the Dales Road Development Plan submitted for 15 Dales Road and recommends that Council endorse the development plan as submitted. Are there any questions to this before we go ahead? Thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what's your motion?
That we accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak?
Yes, this development has changed, falling back from originally it was proposed to have 74 dwellings back to 36, which does seem more in line with what we'd expect in our residential neighbourhoods. Diversity of housing stock, something that is lacking in Warrnambool. We have so many 3, 4, large family size houses. It's actually, I think it's good to see that we're seeing 1 and 2 bedroom units, which is something that I think is undersupplied within our city. With our continued growth, which we're seeing at the moment, especially growth on steroids, we do need diversity in our housing stocks. And look, I do understand with the submission that we received, I do understand the concerns about the traffic, the open space and the bins, but the developer has cut the subdivision down by about half the properties. And the open space, which would be nice to be able to have, there is always the option there for developers to provide funds instead of actually supplying space. Look, I feel by the reduction of residences, by reducing the residences and the extra work to be done on managing the traffic after this is approved, I feel that many of these issues will be addressed. So I'm actually happy to support this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Look, I also endorse Councillor Blaine's statements regarding this development plan. Initially, back in 2019, it was the plan put forward was for 74 units. It's now considerably less. It's down to 36 dwellings. And the majority of them are, as Councillor Blaine has said, are the 1 and 2 bedroom units. Considering we do have such a shortage of housing in Warrnambool, I think this is a good idea and a good plan to move forward with. Yes, there are, as Councillor Blaine has said, that we recognise the submissions put forward regarding the traffic, rubbish, open space. But I feel that all these issues have been addressed with the documents we've received, the environmental report, the waste management plan, traffic assessment, and the stormwater management plan. So I am comfortable with this plan and I'm happy to endorse it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak on this item? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Jolly. Yes, I was concerned about the lack of open space initially, but I'm pleased to see the developer is contributing 5% of the valued land proposed within the site. So I shall go along with the proposal. Thank you, Mayor Jolly.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this? Thank you. That's good. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, would you like to close? Thank you. Okay, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.9, revegetation policy and guidelines. Agenda page number 26, Directorate City Growth. This report presents the revegetation policy and revegetation guidelines for consideration and endorsement. Any questions before we seek a motion on this? No, thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, what is your motion?
I move that we accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yes, this particular issue engendered some very favourable submissions, which basically supported and endorsed the policy and guidelines. And with that in mind, I'm happy to move that this particular one be endorsed.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jolly. This is actually a really important policy for the Warrnambool City Council. Council owns and manages a lot of land which features flora and fauna, natural coastline and unique wetlands and waterways. Now, over the years, with the extensive removal of natural vegetation, we only have less than 10% of natural vegetation. So this policy is designed to give us a consistent approach with both council and volunteer groups in the revegetation, and so we meet all relevant policy, legislation and regulatory standards. So I am more than happy to endorse it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak to this? Councillor Blaine?
Thank you. It's as Councillor Arnott said, it is important to have an overarching policy and guide to these revegetation projects, and we are lucky to have so many natural waterways and places around our city. I would like to say a big thank you to all of the groups that actually put in submissions and have actually encouraged change to make this policy as robust and in line with the needs of Warrnambool as it can be. It's exciting to see how many passionate groups there are in our city trying to keep keeping our natural wonder alive. Thank you to the volunteers who are driving this. I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to close the debate?
Basically, only to say that I'm very happy that we're doing this. It does need some guidance. I have the reputation as a green councillor. I'm happy to maintain that reputation.
Good. Thank you very much. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.10, joint reseal contract, agenda page number 30, Directorate City Infrastructure. The purpose of this report is to inform Council on the current status of the joint bitumen sealing program with Corangamite Shire Council, CSC, and seek approval for continuation of the current arrangement in 2021 to 22 and 2022 to 23. Do I have any questions in regard to this before we move ahead? Thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion for this? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Shelley. I would like to move that the motion be accepted as per the council officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Shelley.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Blaine, thank you. Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Shelley. Yes, I'd like to endorse the continuation to create a greater opportunity to achieve efficiencies with the intent to achieve the best value benefit to each council in the delivery of this service. Thank you, Mayor Shelley.
Thank you. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. Councillor Taylor's exactly right. It's exciting to see councils working together to create better outcomes for their communities. By combining these contracts, there's a larger scope of works, and we're providing a more cost-effective outcome with a larger scope of works being put out to market. This is something that council's been doing for a number of years now, and with this $1.5 million contract for our city, it'll be great to see how much more it'll deliver on some of the most critical infrastructure around Warrnambool. So I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak to it? No, thank you very much. So there being no one else wanting to speak, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to close the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Shelley.
Thank you. So we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. 7.11 Tender Award 2019-064.03 Wollaston Road Design. Agenda page number 33. Directorate City Infrastructure. This report provides information on award of contract 2019-064.03 Wollaston Road Design Services. Are there any questions before we go ahead? No, thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Coysh, what's your motion?
I move to accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. Councillor Coysh, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam. Wollaston Road is one of the very important roads in Warrnambool because it connects some suburbs of Warrnambool. I accepted the recommended tender to construct Wollaston Road. This tender represents best value for council, and of course, Wollaston Road will enhance movement in and around the city, including better connections for cyclists and pedestrians as well. Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to endorse this.
Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think that as Councillor Akosh has already said, that Wollaston Road is a rapidly increasing thoroughfare. The traffic there is becoming more and more busy because of the developments in the area, and its development of that particular stretch of road is being outstripped by the development surrounding it. And I think that it's about time that we actually face towards it and improve it, bring it up to scratch, and this tender is another step in that direction.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Shelley. Again, vehicular traffic and housing projects have increased dramatically in this area along Wollaston Road over the last decade, whereas Wollaston Road from Walls Road to Karamat Road hasn't changed for the last 50 years. So this is well overdue, and I endorse this project to improve Wollaston Road. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you, and I'd like to endorse that as well, especially with the siting of the special development school out there, the Mirai School. There's a lot more traffic going out that way, and housing and everything. So I think this is a great road development that we look forward to having completed. So thank you. So Councillor Coysh, there being no other speakers, would you like to close, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As my colleagues mentioned, that the importance of Wollaston Road is really notable, because the traffic on the Mortlake Road is one of the issues and concern also for people who are living in that area. So having this from Walls to Carmel Road will help a lot in congestion of traffic. So I'm very excited to see this happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.12, tender award 2021-031, design and construction of Edwards Bridge. Agenda page number 36, Directorate City Infrastructure. This report provides information on the award of the contract of 2021-031, design and construction of Edwards Bridge. Are there any questions before we go ahead seeking a motion? No, thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak?
Yes, Mayor Jelly. This design and construction of Edwards Street Bridge is something that is urgently needed. It is disappointing it's over the original estimates, but it's important that we get this project done for the future connectivity, especially with the as we're trying to make plans for development in the foreshore. The original costings were done in 2015-16, and this project really does show what happens when council does patch jobs instead of doing the whole job properly. Looking at the big picture, I see this as fixing the issue over the longer term. It's also important for emergency vehicle access to Viaduct Road, as well as buses and heavy vehicles like garbage trucks. Council can't continue to patch just to keep patching up this bridge. Over the last 5 years, council spent around $365,000 on repairs. $177,000 of that last year was on the deck to keep the load rating at 15 tonnes for emergency vehicles, garbage trucks and coaches, so that they can access our stunning foreshore. With nothing being done, these costs will continue to escalate, and it'll be a big liability for council in the coming years. And it could lead to a critical failure, which would be a collapse. Do it once, do it right. The Federal Bridge Renewal Program, I'd like to say thank you to the federal government for supplying the funds that they have. I think it's important to get this build happening so that we can get these funds utilised. As disappointing it is to have the cost a bit higher than we first thought, I do think it's critical for our foreshore and connectivity, and we'll be supportive of and be very supportive of the future works hopefully we'll have going on down at the foreshore. So I'm happy to support this tender.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Well, there's no doubt that Edwards Bridge, it's past its use by date, and it needs to be replaced with a bridge that's fit for purpose and a piece of our infrastructure. Yes, we've been given money from the federal government and under the Bridge Renewal program. I am disappointed that it is going over budget. However, I think in this instance, that can't be really helped. The thing is, if we don't fix this bridge now, as Councillor Blaine has alluded to, the expense and the cost of the bridge will only keep rising. You know, and then we do run the risk of being in real trouble when something goes really wrong with the bridge and we cannot use it for doing up the harbour and the port area. I have spoken about the budget and the lack of, and just where the money is coming from. I have been assured by the officers involved with the financials that it can happen, and we are applying for another 500,000 grant extension from the government. And we do have a strong contingency amount of money in there as well. So with all those things under consideration, I am happy to endorse the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Okay, Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, I'll basically repeat the remarks made by Councillor Arnott, Councillor Blaine. This particular project is an imperative. Over the years, I've seen patch jobs done on the Edwards Bridge. Those patch jobs will continue. It's deteriorating. The new bridge is an essential in terms of the heavy machinery and whatnot that we've got to have to access the breakwater for its repairs and possibly even for the boat ramp. So it is an essential. A cost-benefit analysis is probably just delaying the issue. I think that the fact that the budget's blown out was almost inevitable. The new bridge is going to be slightly bigger on the deck. It's going to address the needs of that particular area for years to come. Something that has to be done. I think that we're just throwing money away after good money after bad if we keep trying to maintain it and repair it when it's clearly lived its life. It's beyond further repair economically. I'm quite happy that we go ahead with this task. I'm unhappy that the budget's blown out. But I've been assured by officers that we have the wherewithal to cover the costs and we're chasing more federal money. So I don't think that we've got really any good choices. The only good choice we've got is to actually proceed with the job.
Thank you. Any other councillor like to speak to this? Councillor Coysh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with my colleagues, Ziegler, Annette and Blaine, for the work to go ahead. It's a vital project and it is very located in a very important area in Monaco. So despite the blown up of the budget, but still we have a surplus that can be assisted with other funding. So I'm happy really to see that project is going ahead. So I'm happy to endorse this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Taylor, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Yes, I endorse Councillor Blaine and Councillor Arnott's comments that construction of the bridge must happen as soon as possible because the cost of, we have seen how much the cost has blown out from 2015 when it was quoted at $3 million and now has blown out to 4.6 million. So I would consider this project to be very urgent, and I have seen the pictures of the new bridge, and the new bridge will be a great asset for the community of Warrnambool, and it'll provide a lot more room for vehicular traffic, bikes and pedestrians. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. And I agree with my fellow councillors tonight. Yes, disappointing, but we need to get this done. As we all agree, the foreshore is very important in many aspects. So, you know, there's one way over the Edwards Bridge, and then there's the other ways at the top of Lake Patobe Road there. And we just need the access for many things. Again, you're right. If there was a you know, there needed to be fire trucks or ambulances or heavy vehicles down there. We need to fix it, stop patching it, because that's costing money. So look forward to this going forward. Hopefully we can get some more funding from the federal government. Great, we've had some, but let's move forward and get this done. So there being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, would you like to close?
Just in closing, the other really important thing I think here with this project is because this bridge is so far past its use by, and I did mention it earlier about it hitting a critical failure where it could collapse. I think the other thing to really think of too, it's the safety of all the users and the residents around that area that actually use that bridge. If we don't go through with actually replacing it and something happened, whether they're in a car or walking across it, I think I'd regret it. I'd regret it for a very, very long time. So I think it's very, very important, even from a safety aspect, to actually get this done. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blaine. So we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.13, Advisory Committee Reference Group Reports. Agenda page number 40, Directorate Executive Services. This report contains the record of one reference group meeting. Any questions, councillors? Thank you. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Okay, Councillor Arnott, what's your motion?
I'll move that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ziegler. Thank you. Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Any other councillors like to speak to it? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Arnott, would you like to close?
Sorry, just a point, Mayor Jelly. I think we've got to wait for Councillor Taylor to get back into it.
Yes, we have. He has moved. I was waiting for that to do before we did the vote at least. Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're right. I watched it and there he is. Councillor Taylor, you're not wanting to speak to this?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Okay, so Councillor Arnott, you didn't want to speak further on this?
No, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 7.14, informal meetings of council reports. Agenda page number 41, Directorate Executive Services. The purpose of this report is to provide council with copies of informal meetings of council, previously known as Assembly of Councillor Records, as previously required under Section 80A(2) of the Local Government Act 1989. Any questions, councillors, before we move to putting forward a motion? Thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, what is your motion?
I'll move that the officer's recommendations be accepted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to speak to this? No, thank you. Okay, there being no further councillors wanting to speak, Councillor Ziegler, would you like to close the debate?
No, thanks, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 7.15, informal meetings of council reports, agenda page number 42, Directorate Executive Services. This report summarises Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer council activities since the last ordinary meeting, which particularly relate to key social, economic and environmental issues of direct relevance to the Warrnambool community. Are there any questions before we seek a motion? Thank you. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report be received.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak to this?
No, thank you.
Councillor Ziegler, would you like to?
No, thanks, Mayor Jelly.
Any other councillors wish to speak? Thank you. We'll now go to Councillor Blaine, if you would like to close. Thank you. Okay, we'll now put the vote to the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, we're up to agenda item number 8, notice of motions, which there are none. And agenda item 9, general business. Only items of a minor or routine nature can be raised in general business. The chair may reject any item that is not of a minor or routine nature or that meets any of the reasons listed in clause 29(2) of the governance rules. Councillors may speak for a maximum of 2 minutes, and councillors' officers will be provided an opportunity to respond or address the issues raised. General business is for a minor routine nature. Councillors, are there any items of general business this evening? Councillor Arnott.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jelly. Just on a note regarding our city, I'd like to congratulate the 4 new businesses that have currently just opened in Liebig Street. 3 have opened, 1 is about to open. I think that shows exceptional courage in these times, but it also shows exceptional faith in our town and our city. I think it's a wonderful thing. They are all to be congratulated. I'd just like to keep urging everyone to get vaccinated. We're nearly there. As our Mayor said earlier on, we've got really high vaccination rates. To those people that are perhaps a little reluctant, have a think about it. And if there's anyone out there that's not following the lockdown rules at the moment, just think about what you're putting on the line. So congratulations, everyone out there that is fully vaccinated. Let's keep it all going. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott. Anyone else like to bring anything up for general business? Councillor Blaine.
I just had a couple of little questions. I was just wondering, I've been contacted by a few members of the public, and the questions I had was Fairy Street, just before Timor Street, you've put that cage in the middle of the road that's blocking the road. I was just wondering what that was for. And the other little question I had was, I see that we've put in a new parking meter in the parking bays up the middle there, which I just thought it was interesting. Why did we put it in the middle when you have to shop on either side, and we've made a line of parking meters up the middle of Fairy Street there?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah,
through you, Madam Mayor. The first point, I'll get back to councillors with an update via email, if that's okay. The second point about the parking meters is that there was 2 that were purchased because the meters needed to be reconfigured, and there's a mix of 2-hour parking and all-day parking in Fairy Street in that section. And so it meant that we were without an all-day meter in that area, without someone having to walk a considerable distance to get an all-day meter, because none of the meters have got all of the various zones displayed on them now. So now that we we've put the extra one in the centre median for the all-day parking in that section of Ferry Street, and the other all-day meter went into Parkers because the same situation occurred there.
Thanks. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else got any general business this evening? No? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Item number 10, urgent business. CEO, have you received any notice of items of urgent business this evening?
No, there are none, Mayor.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, we come to the close of our meeting and very pleased everything went well on our first Zoom council formal meeting. So thank you. There being no further business, I declare that the meeting closed at 7 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Bye, everyone.